All right, as we get going today, a couple things. I think this is probably something you've all done, but you are supposed to, um, if necessary, go over to here and sign up for if school is going to be canceled or anything because of the weather. Okay, you are supposed to sign up for it every year, so you may want to check and see if you're indeed signed up for it. Then it's the URL right there. Okay. We are going to continue on with the Java stuff, but I just wanted to mention to you, it's not like, oh yeah, Jeff, you're not even going to do that ASP.NET stuff anymore. No, I went out and I've been doing all sorts of stuff on it and checking all sorts of sites. I spent a while this morning going out to and searching through App Harbor's stuff, and I finally found, hey, this is what I want. Moving data between Microsoft SQL Server databases. And it was supposed to be moving in existing database to App Harbor. I thought, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. Except what that is moving from App Harbor to it going the other way. So I followed, a bunch of their stuff in here, and I finally got onto the system and wrote my own thing here that, you can see this. I tell them that I'm using App Harbor in my ASP.NET class. I have uploaded several non-database ASP.NET apps to App Harbor with no trouble. Is there any App Harbor documentation on how I can upload my local SQL Server database to App Harbor? I actually have two different ASP.NET MVC database project applications that I would like to upload separately, of course, to App Harbor. One is database first and one is code first. I went to your FAQ page but could not find an answer. You have a move an existing database to App Harbor link that I clicked, but this link is misnamed, as it explains how to move an existing App Harbor database to a local site. I also went out to YouTube, and I just mentioned the one. All right. It says any suggestions that you have would be most appreciated. So far, nothing. All right. And, I hope I get something back. We'll see. But I am still looking. I am still hoping that I'll be able to come up with something where I'm going to be able to give you some kind of an answer. All right. I get these things. I get a lot of emails, and one of the ones I get is from this thing called D-Zone, and they had in here interesting web development trends in 2018. And again, talking about AI, talking about motion UI. All right. Anybody know what blockchain is? You may want to look it up. You may be asked that in an interview. I'm still learning. There is a book online that's called Blockchain for Dummies that's free that you can download if you want to learn more about it. Augmented reality, as it says, it helps marketers reach their target audiences. But this is what I want to get down to. All right. Now, when you do your portfolio, you do it whatever way you think is the best way for you to do it. All right. If you want to do yours as a single page app, in other words, where you just keep scrolling down, that's okay. If you want to do it and have several pages, one, the way that you've basically been doing them so far, that's okay. All right, but as it says in here, one of the things that they talk about for 2018 is single page websites. All right. They also talk about progressive web apps. These are kind of cool. All right. Why? Because they work offline. All right. And you can do a certain amount of work right now with websites that are when you don't have an internet connection, but it's very limited. All right. All right. I'm just going to leave it at that. Was there anything else I wanted to show you? I don't think so. All right. Now, hopefully she won't mind me saying this, but Tiffany emailed me yesterday saying, hey, Valerie said that there's some stuff that I'm supposed to download, so I sent you this yesterday, and I sent it to Brady, but I put it out there. I just emailed all of you a folder with today's date on it, and it has both of the handouts that I've given you for the cheat sheets for IntelliJ IDEA. All right, so it's got both those, plus it's got this, because this is kind of what we did on Friday. All right, after we kind of had the cluster problem with getting anything from App Harbor to work. So again, my guess is that every one of you has got a 64-bit machine. If you're not sure, and there's many ways you can do it, all right, but you can go out here and you can follow their steps. It's 3 or 4 steps, and it'll tell you. When it comes up, it'll either say that you've got a 64-bit machine or it'll say you've got a 32-bit machine. My guess is that everyone in here has got a 64-bit machine. So again, we did this as a class. We went out to C program files basically and checked to see whether or not there was a Java folder. For virtually everyone in the class, to my knowledge, there wasn't one. So we went out to right here, all right, and we downloaded from right here either, from right there, either the 64-bit or the 32-bit. And again, for most people, it was probably the 64-bit. All right, I think this was about 206 meg or something like that. This is just the Java Developer Kit, the JDK, that you need in order to be able to actually create Java projects. All right, so we did that. All right, once it was downloaded, again, we verified that it was there, and we double-clicked on the path to it. Well, I can show you that in just a minute. This was my path right here. Again, yours could be different. All right, then we went out to JetBrains, and we did a download of the community edition of the IntelliJ IDEA IDE. All right, and one thing about that was a couple of you mentioned that when we were downloading stuff that maybe you didn't need everything that was in there. It downloaded some other junk that you probably didn't need. I just used all the defaults. All right. After the download, click on the IntelliJ IDEA icon to make sure that it all loaded okay. All right. And this is what we had gone over then toward the end of the class. We did a very simple Hello World program. So we got used to using this. And then afterwards, we put in a very simple payroll program. And I gave you all of the code for that payroll program on here too. So if you weren't here on Friday, hopefully at least, that'll catch you up. All right. Now, if you weren't here and you didn't see my email, you probably haven't downloaded this stuff. So hopefully you're doing that right now. All right. But what I'd like to do today at least, and we'll see what happens as we go on. As I promised you, next week will be lab the entire week, and it is time for you to work on your portfolios. All right, that's all I plan on doing next week. The only way that I would change that would be if these people from App Harbor get back to me, and it's not until next week, and then I'll tell you what they said. But other than that, this is your time. All right. Does everybody understand? I've said this to you before. I have to have grades in Friday morning by noon. That doesn't mean, that you can say, hey, Jeff, I'm 2 or 3 things behind. I just sent them to you at 5 to 12. That doesn't work. Believe me, I had that happen before. Tell you a very quick story. I had this student, and he was gifted, but he was very different, okay? And that's what he did. His name was Andy Pfaff. I'll always remember him. A student, super good programmer, but didn't have a lot of ambition. So he literally owed me like 7 assignments. I told him the day before, Andy, I need this stuff. I need it tonight. Yeah, no problem. So when does he give it to me? He gives it to me at 5 to 12. When at 12 o'clock, I had to have grades. I'm not that good. So I couldn't go grade him all that. And I gave him a D because that's what he'd earned. So about 2 weeks later, after all this happens, I'd forgotten all about it. But his dad comes in. His dad literally starts yelling at me. Why did you give my son a D? And then I explained everything to him. And he said, is that true, Andy? And he said, yeah. He smacked him right in the face. And I don't mean soft. I mean, he belted him. And I said, sir, just so you know, if you put another hand on him, I'm going to have to go and report you. Not just to the administration here, but to the cops. And he grabbed him literally. You hear that joke about grabbing him by the ear? He grabbed him by the ear and he dragged him out. I don't want to go through that with any of you. All right? If you do happen to turn in stuff late, I can do a grade change, but I won't do a grade change till next semester. All right? There is no one in here, to my knowledge, that is in danger of failing. All right, just so that you all know if for some reason you would fail, and again, I don't think anybody will, but if you would fail, you can still take the class next semester. Because the prereqs for this class and the one next semester are the two you've already passed from last year. All right. In addition, you may care, you may not care. To my knowledge, Colin will be in this class next semester. All right. He doesn't have to take C#, he already has. So he's sort of a semester behind, but he'll be in here next semester. All right. So this is what we did. So what I'd like to have all of you do, and again, you'll only be able to do it if you've got everything loaded, but if you do, I've got the IntelliJ thing right over here. In fact, I'm just going to close this. And we're going to start up. And we're just going to go back just to review and redo that first project. Because we're going to redo that project several times. We're going to keep refining it so you can see different ways that it can be done. All right? Now again, the other thing that I went over with you was this creating, running, and packaging your first Java application. I sent this to you about a week ago, so you have it. All right, everybody in here has it. And they go through, like I said, creating a project, etc. So this is what we're going to do right now. Now, if you say, is this going to be the same one that we did on Friday to start with? Yes. But we're going to create more than one iteration of it. So if you'd rather watch, and if you say, I've already got mine, it works, then you don't have to do it. All right? So when you come up and you bring up IntelliJ, you should have something like what is shown on the screen here. You'll notice I've already got an existing file in here. The other thing that I, just those of you who weren't here Friday, that I suggested was that on your desktop, you create a folder called Java. And you put all of your Java programs into that folder. You don't have to do that, but if I give you 2 or 3 programs and say, hey, and do these, and then they're due whatever, and if you can give me, your whole Java folder, it'll make it much easier. All right. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to click Create New Project right here, and when we get going later, we will be choosing this Kotlin VM. Not now. All right. We will not choose Groovy, which, believe it or not, is a language. If you've never heard of it, we're not going to choose the Kotlin JS because that's writing Kotlin using JavaScript. We're not going to do either one of those this entire semester. But later on, probably around the beginning of February or so, we will be choosing the Kotlin VM, Kotlin JVM, which is the Kotlin with a Java virtual machine. For now, what I want you to do is just the default here is Java. That's what we want. So we're going to click here. We're going to click Next. Now, we don't want to create a project from a template. So we skip this and make sure it's not checked. And we click Next again. Then it asks us for a project name. If you have gone in and if you have created a folder on your desktop called Java, you can change to that folder, and that's what I'm going to do. So there's my Java folder. Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm going to show you. All right. So notice now it's got the right location. I already created one that's called payroll. Well, now I'm going to actually start. Today we're going to create as somewhere between 2 and 4 of these, maybe even 5 of these payrolls. So I'm going to call this one payroll 01. When you create things like this, if you create a project, do not put blank spaces in it. Everybody hear that? Can you get away with it and do it? Possibly, but don't do it anyway. If you really have your heart set on having a blank space between the payroll and the 01, use an underscore. All right? That should work without any kind of problem. But you're best off just running things together like I've done. All right? Then click Finish. All right? And it says It already exists. Well, I thought I called that one, but that's okay. Yeah, sure, I'll override it. That's not a problem. All right. If you don't have any JDK at all. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Yes. I'm going to show you how to do that. Did you download the stuff I sent you yesterday? Yeah, then it should literally take you about a minute. All right, not even. So, all right, so we're right here. We talked about this last time, but I want to, again, this is for the benefit of everybody in here, but especially those who weren't here last time. All right, there are some internal files that get created in here in this .idea folder. You should never have to touch those. There is more stuff that gets created in a metadata folder. You should never have to touch that. You may or may not have an out folder. If you don't worry about it. All right? I do because I've already created the project. But all of you should have a folder that says SRC. All right? That's the one that's going to literally hold our source. Everybody hear that? All right? That's going to hold our source. All right. The other stuff that's in here in this other folder that says external libraries, these are all what are called Java archive files that are typically abbreviated JAR. And again, I mentioned this Friday, but I'm saying it again. The way that Java works is Java makes a boatload of stuff available to you. But it doesn't physically open it up in the program until it needs it. So there might be, all sorts of stuff in here that you never use. And you don't have to worry about it. It's just, for lack of better words, it's there if you do need it. All right. The other thing I want to mention, I did not say this on Friday, is hopefully you're used to seeing when we were working on all of our ASP.NET programs, up at the top of most of your files, class files and the like, you had using followed by something. You know what I'm talking about? Now we're going to use the word import. All right. It means the same thing. We're going to go out and we're going to basically create files. All right. All right. Now, so if you have your mouse on right there where it says source, all right, and you hold down on the control key and you tap your insert key, which is probably in the upper right-hand corner of your keyboard, it'll look like this. Or maybe not. I'm sorry, Alt insert. You want this. See that? So you hold down on your Alt key and you tap the insert key. And it should look like this. This is what we want, is a Java class. That's what you want to choose, is Java class. And it's the first one. That's the one we're going to use for the next month or so. You click there, and it says create new class. And you have to give it a name. All right? Well, what we're going to be creating in here is we're going to be creating, let's just call this what it is. I'll call it Payroll 01. All right? And if you look here, there's some other stuff that you can choose. All right? We're going to do very little in Java. Please listen to this. You don't have to look, but please listen to this. We're going to do very little work in Java that's going to involve GUIs. Almost everything we do will be command line. All right? If we want to do GUI, which we'll try to do towards the end, that's a Java FX application that you see down there. We don't want to do that right now, though. We just want class to be highlighted. I've got Payroll 01, and I'm going to click OK. Okay? And I've got this up at the top. Now, this is not exactly the way we did it the other day, so I'm going to manually add the other thing in here. Okay? When you work in here, I want to see what I skipped, because I wanted us to have specify the project, select the JDK, boom, download JDK, etc., etc. Good. Project name, did that. Did that. Did that. Did that. Okay, I screwed up. All right. All right. Next. Next. All right, what I had told you to do then, when we got to this point, was hold down on the Alt, all right, and tap the Insert key. Choose Java class and give it the name of a class. Where I screwed up, okay, nobody stopped me, but I screwed up. Boy, it's the first time ever. Is what I should have had you type in was literally, this is how we're going to do that when we get to this step every time. And that is, we're going to type in here edu.rankin dot your username, so mine is JP Scott, that's not yours, all right, dot, and if this is going to be called like Java Payroll 1, then I put it lowercase, dot, all right, and I know that looks really weird. This thing right here is going to be what's called, all right, that's the name of what's called our package. And a package is kind of like a folder, and it's kind of like a root folder. All right, so that's what we're going to want to do. Okay, this is going to be the entire name, basically, for lack of better words, as we get going, of our package, and this will be the name of the class that goes in the package. All right, now yours shouldn't be JP Scott because that's not any of your usernames. You know, I think like E. Wilson, E. Resnick, etc. That kind of stuff. That's what you should put in. If you want to put in your middle name, I could care less. All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do that. And you'll notice when I put that in, first of all, you can't see all of it, but I can stretch this out. Now you can see it all. All right, so it's edu.rankin. Your username, the name of the basically the name of your class with no uppercasing, the name of your class with uppercasing. Class names in Java are always supposed to start with an uppercase letter. All right, it's just an unwritten rule. If you have a class, for example, that's called tax rate, the T in tax and the R in rate should both be capitalized. Since mine is called Java Payroll, the J in Java and the P in payroll are both capitalized. Does that make sense? All right, now I'm going to click OK. And now notice what I have here. It created the package for me, and it created the class name for me. Everybody see that? All right. Java is another one of these languages that is totally block structured. Everything that you create within curly braces. All right. Java has two different kinds of things that you can create. You can create Java applications, and you can create Java applets. Okay? I don't know if any of you have ever gone out to this site before, but I mean, I remember when I was younger going out to here, going out to candystand.com, and they've got a bunch of online games there that you can play. All right? Some of them are good, some of them are cheesy, etc. Back in the day, years ago, we're talking probably, in the early 90s, most of these games were written in Java. Today, almost nothing as far as applets go. You know, probably applet use has declined like 90-some% over the years. But I will show you, maybe even the last day that we're on Java, how to create a Java applet, just so you see it. All right? But we don't care. What we're going to be working with are Java applications. All right? The reason I'm telling you that is every Java application must have in it a main. You'll notice that this is their Intellisense. See how it's I put in pub and it has all that for us? So I can hit tab, it puts in public, and I can put in static, void, main, etc., string, bracket, bracket, args. All right. PSVM. Okay, we'll try that. PSVM tap. There you go. Much better. And there are a lot of those. All right, Visual Studio has a bunch of those too. Like when we did properties in Visual Studio, you can type in like prop, tab, 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 tab. You know, if you want to learn that stuff, great. All right. So every single Java application must have a main method. Main is the point of entry for the program. All right, it doesn't have to be the first method or function that's in here. Since all we have in this example is a main, that's the only one we care about. Now, I want to go back because this is what you had talked about, Tiffany. If yours still says no JDK up there, what you'll have to do is there should be a button to the right of it that says new. All right. You'll click that button, and then you want to find the path to where your JDK is. In other words, you're going to want to go out to the C drive, program files, Java, JDK, and this is the one I had you download. So this is the path to my JDK. You'll want to find yours. It's probably either in the same place or darn close to it. Then you'll want to copy that right there that I've got in blue, copy it to the clipboard, and where it says no JDK, you should be able, after you click new, to paste that in there. That's a one-time shot. You shouldn't have to do it anymore. Now, Ethan was just good enough to show me a shortcut. I'm sure, I'm not saying that I'm guessing here, I'm sure that if you had somebody else teaching you this class who had already been using IntelliJ IDEA, that they would be able to show you boatloads of shortcuts and other stuff that I'm not going to be able to show you right now because I haven't learned those. Not only that, probably the way that we're going to set this up, there probably is a better way to do it than the way we're doing it. Not to be funny, I don't care. I just want us to write some Java. All right, I'll have a chance to look at this stuff during the break, but probably not before that. Okay. So hopefully then you were able to get out to here. But again, this right here, just so you know, this line, that is called a method header. The name of the method is main. Okay. It is static, which means there's only one of them. There can only be one main in any application. If I tried creating another main, I'd have some problems. All right. It's public, which means that anybody that I decide to give access to can actually call this main. It's available to the world, so to speak. So public, this is what's called an access modifier. Static means there's only one of them. Void means it doesn't return anything. Okay? Again, we looked at this in the C# class, I believe, also. When you've got a method that doesn't return anything, you just specify its return type as void. It's void of a return. If this returned an integer, we'd put int in there. Okay, if I was teaching you the C programming language, it would look just like this, except that would say int. Because typically in C you return 0, which means that everything worked. All right, main is the name of the method, and it is possible for main to go and give main arguments. We won't do that, but if you run main from a command line, you can provide arguments to it. Those arguments that you provide are strings. The name of the strings, they're in an array that's called args. So if you pass 5 things into main, it would be args0, args1, args2, args3, and args4. Does that make sense? All right. We don't care about that. All right. And again, it's up to you if you want to. Comments, I think I've told you before, same as what we've looked at before. All right, you'll notice that in here, they're gray instead of green that we're used to in Visual Studio. All right, you don't have to put all those in. If that helps you, put them in. Some people have told me you put in way too many frigging comments. It just screws me up. Then don't put them in. Whatever's easiest for you. All right. So this is what we did last time. All right. And this is going to work like we done in other languages. Now, if you look up on the screen here, I'm going to write this, and then I'm going to change it. All right. Why would you? You'll understand why in just a second. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a comment in here that says declare initialize local variables. All right. So I'm going to say string first name equals Jeff. String last name equals Scott. You can use my name, you can use you're not turning any of this in. I'll put 0.0 by all these. All right, so we've got 5 variables that we've declared right there. I want you to understand something. All right, all of you, if everybody, just for a second, if you'd stop typing, this isn't going anywhere. I'm not going to remove any of it. String is not a variable type. Strings in Java are a class. All right, so you can say string dot different things. All right, or something that's in a string dot something. Notice I should be able to say in here first name dot. See all the stuff I can use with it? All right, because string is a class. On the other hand, if I come in here and I try taking hours dot, you'll notice it's basically there's nothing in there. Don't worry about what that stuff means. But I didn't have all those different methods that I had for strings. All right, because a string is a class. The other thing, and I mentioned this the other day, but I want to say it again, when you've got variables that can hold a decimal place, they can be either double or they can be float. Don't use float, because if I come in here and type in float, watch the screen please. If I come in here and type in float, you'll notice I get an error message. If you make variables of type float, you must have either a capital F on the end or a lowercase f on the end. Most people forget to do that. So I'm going to suggest that you just take all your variables that can potentially have a decimal place, make them doubles. All right? If you had it set up that you could only work a whole number of hours, everybody with me? If it was that you could only work a whole number of hours, we could have said int hours. We could have done that. All right? But it's like here, technically, my workday, I'm supposed to, if I've got an 8 o'clock class, all right, I'm supposed to be in here at 8 o'clock, all right, and I'm supposed to work 7.5 hours, okay, which would mean 3:30, which Ethan would like because then he'd be done at 3:30 every day, all right? That's not my workday anyway, but you get the idea. I work, our workday is a half an hour, so we'd make them doubles. All right. So now I'm going to come in here after I've got all this stuff, and I'll put another comment in that says calculate gross pay. And what is it? Gross equal hours times rate. We don't give a lick about how many hours they've worked. We're not talking about overtime. We're not talking about anything here. Everybody get that? That makes sense to everyone. All right. In just a minute, I'm going to change this. And you can leave it exactly the way it is. But I want to change it because I just want to show you something that I didn't show everybody last Friday. All right. As what for your JDK? We'll take a look at it in just a couple minutes. All right. And if you need to, I mean, I can even print you out a hard copy of this. So then I'm going to put another comment that says display all inputs and calculated values. All right. So I'm going to come in here, and to do that, I say system.out.println. All right, and I'm going to say, can I make this narrower? There we go. That's better. All right, I'm going to just copy this about 5 or 6 times. That's about right. All right, so that's everything. From the top here, those were our variables. That literally is everything. All right, so I'll give you a second to key that in. So taking it again from the top, we've got our package statement. I do want you to know it is not mandatory that you create a package, but it's considered acceptable practice. Everybody does it. All right. So we've got our package statement at the top. This is called our class header right there. It's saying that the class is public. There are 3 kinds of classes that you can have in Java. You can have public classes, you can have private classes, you can have what are called protected classes. All right? It is legal in Java, and you will see this because we're going to do it. you can put private classes inside of a public class. You can do that. All right. Our Java project can only have one public class, and if you look up on the screen, typically the way this works is if you notice right here how we've got Java Payroll 01, that name has to be the same name as what we've saved the project, .java, and the caseness has to be the same. All right, weird things can happen if they're not. Now, that's the way it is in Eclipse. I'm not sure if in IntelliJ IDEA, if that's the case, but that's a Java thing. All right, so it should be. All right, then we had our main. And the first thing that we did in main was we declared and initialized 5 different variables. 2 of those 5 variables were strings. Unlike JavaScript, strings in Java must be double quotes. Everybody hear that? Strings in Java must be double quotes. If you don't do this, but I just want to show you this. If I did this, I could say char mi, I'm going to get rid of this right away, equals, see that? That's a character. Char, that's the only time you use single quotes. All right? So if I wanted to be Jeff P. Scott or Jeffrey P. whatever, I don't want to do that. So I'll leave that in there, but I'm just going to comment that out. All right? I don't care about that. But if I did want to include that, I could. All right? In just the same way, I'm going to put this in, but I'm going to comment it out. All right? I could come in here and say, all right? So there is an example of what? It's an example of a Boolean variable. Boolean variables, you know this already, can only have a value of true or false, right? All right? I'm just trying to show you a bunch of these. We didn't go over those Friday. I talked about them, but now I'd rather show them to you. All right, one thing we did do the other day is we said this. I said int, and I just said, I don't know, emp number equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the employee number. All right. You'll notice it's an integer. If you look up on the screen, as soon as I come through here and I put in point, I get an error. It's telling me I'm doing something it doesn't understand. Not only that, ints can only be a certain size. So when I make them too big, again, I get an error that it's telling me. Integer number too large. All right, I could go back and say if I wanted to make a number that big, I could come in here and put in long. What is it, long int? All right, make me a liar. That's not too big for a long. I don't know why it's not working, but it should be. I'm not worried about it anyway. We're not going to even use longs. Now, if you look up on the screen here, the only reason that I put that in like this was to show you an int. Does it make sense to everybody looking at that line in blue that that variable actually should have been a string? Integer should only be for values that you're using or could use to manipulate arithmetically. Now, I could have done this. Something like that. That would have been fine. All right? And again, I'm just going to comment this out because this is meant to be a simple payroll program where we only care about those 5 values. All right? Again, I mentioned this the other day, but I want to say it again just for completeness sake, that Java has 8 different kind of variables. And those 8 different kind of variables are known as primitive variables. And just so you see them quickly here, we've got int, short, long, byte, float, double, char, and Boolean. Now we've already gone over today Boolean, which are true, false, char, which must be in a single quote, double, I said float, you need to use a big F or a little f for that. All right. We looked at int. Short is just an int that only has a range from negative 32,768 to positive 32,767. All right. And int has a range from negative 4 billion plus to positive 4 billion plus. The long has got a range that's so big I can't tell you what that number is. It's just humongous. And a byte has a range from 0 to 255. I will tell you that 99.9% of the work that most programmers do with variables, if they're whole numbers, you use an int. And if they're numbers with a decimal, you use a double. All right. Now that is a generalization, but like I said, it's a generalization that'll hold true more than 99% of the time. Are there any questions on any of those? All right, and I forgot she was coming in, so Shannon is right on time. So I'll tell you what, let's stop right here. She's going to do your course evaluations with you, so I'm going to step out, and when she's done, I don't know how long do those take, Shannon?
Well, we have a few extra ones this time around because it's the fall one. We always have that extra one.
Okay.
So it'll at least probably take 20 minutes.
Okay, so why don't we do this? It's 1:30. If that takes 20 minutes, take an extra 15, and then at 2:05, we'll start back up again. All right?